podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Rangers Rabble podcast. This is your Monday Night Rabble. I'm Mark and I'm your host, and I'm joined by Connor, Alan, and Will. Gentlemen, good evening. Hello to everybody watching, everybody tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. All that good stuff as per usual. So I was sitting the day and I was thinking to myself, right, I don't normally do it, but I thought I'll have a wee look. I don't know how much there is going to be to talk about tonight. Take a look at the previous games. We'll talk about the manager, some of the players, transfers that maybe need done. And then the chairman decides to speak. So we have plenty to discuss, I should say. Normally with these type of things, I always go and start off with Wolf. But I think I'm gonna let Wolf just fester a wee bit before I come to him. Alan, my friend, I'll start with you. Yeah, like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff as well. John Bennett, I wasn't expecting it, but came out and gave us an update on the stadium, player trading model, transfers, etc., etc., etc. We've been calling for the chairman to come out and speak to us. It should have happened a while ago. It should have happened at least a month ago. And then maybe some kind of follow-up to it could have been had this late on in the transfer window. What did you make of the chairman's interview?
Well, I was probably expecting it to come out, or when he previously made a comment, he'd said it would come up with a further and fuller update before the end of the month. Then we're fast running out of time in July, so I was a wee bit surprised by the timing of it, but you can never predict it when they're going to put these interviews out. I thought the questions were obviously carefully managed. It was 22 minutes, which really could have been 5 minutes for what he's actually told us. He gave his update on where we are with the shitting. That's as accurate as he can be, and he continued to caveat this, that, and everything else. I think he wants us to be clear that he's not making any promises, but for the largest part, he gave us an update and a timeline for when we should be back at Ibrox, as long as there's no more hold-ups. And disappointing that we're still not getting an update on where the guys that have season tickets are going to be seated for Hampden. We're not going to know that to possibly the end of the week. So a lot of talking, probably not a lot of updates.
Probably, well, not a lot of updates. Wolf, I'll bring you into this, and you can have your say. Look, he was never going to come out and tell us everything. I probably expected a little bit more of an update than what we got on. I suppose maybe just as a fan, you want to hear more about is the manager going to be backed? Is there going to be money for him to spend? Is he going to bring players in? You want him just to turn around and go, yes. But realistically, the chairman's never really going to come out and tell you that. Just quickly, Wolf, though, the stuff from the stadium, right? Stadium delays can happen. Manufacturing, all that nonsense getting shipped over, that happens, right? You can be set back. I don't really have much of an issue with that side of thing. You can't blame the board. We've discussed that before, but he was specifically asked about when will supporters know exactly where they're going to be sitting in Hampden for games. And I think he said towards the end of this week. Now, I mean, forgive me for being naive, but surely to God, they could have already worked all this out by now.
Yeah, what he actually said was, to paraphrase him, because as soon as he paraphrased the manager, I'll paraphrase him, hopefully by the end of this week. Now, hopefully by the end of this week probably means the beginning of next week. First game we play at Hampden's a week on Saturday. That's nothing like enough time for people. People need to know what they're doing. I mean, even something as simple as what end of the ground are you going to be sitting in? Because people need to make their arrangements for where they're parking their car, where they're getting dropped off, whatever, right? If somebody's been told, right, you're in the West Stand, for example, right, they're used to that because that's where we go at Hampden, right? But say you've got a season ticket and they say, well, you're going to be relocated to the east side of the stadium, right? You don't know the east side of Hampden. That's the Celtic end, if you like, right? So if you need to make arrangements, you're not going to park on Pollock Road if you're at the Aikenhead Road end of Hampden, because that's just daft. You've got to walk all the way around through the crowds. So you need to make these sort of plans. Have a look, see what you're doing, speak to people. If you travel in a car or a minibus with other folk that have got season tickets in different areas of Ibrox, you'll be relocated to different parts of Hampden. Where's the best place to park for everybody? They need to know these. You can't just decide that on the day. It's going to be absolute chaos. People need to know where they're going. Also, a lot of people probably aren't going to go to Hampden because it's Hampden, because for a variety of reasons, as we've touched on previously, they can't go or they won't go. So, I think they're leaving it as late as they possibly can because they know there's going to be a backlash and it's less time for the backlash before concentrating on the game. My personal opinion is we'll find out on Saturday, early afternoon, if we get a result in Tynecastle. Because everybody will be more interested in the fact we've got a result at Tynecastle, and they'll kind of gloss over the fact that we've got these emails out where you're sitting at Hampden. But I mean, as you said about the shipment, the steel and stuff like that, you can't blame the board because these things happen, and we've done this over the weeks. That it's not the board's fault, but surely to God, you make sure that the stuff you need is in situ before you start the work. Now, they've known for a year this was happening this summer, right? So surely they should have made sure the steel was here. The stuff that they needed was England. Suppose they had to store it somewhere for a month, right? That was probably going to cost less money and cause an awful lot less hassle than the knock-on effect this is having. I've been at hand until whenever it is, September, October, whatever that happens to be. That I would lay on the board. They should have said to the contractors, look, this is when it's starting. Because they made a big thing of saying as soon as the last game at Ibrox was played, they were on it, they'd started the building work because they knew it was time sensitive. But surely then they should have made sure that the base materials that they needed were here so they could use them. I get there's delays. There's always delays in building. I don't work in building and I know there's delays. So they knew there was going to probably be delays. So they should have taken any steps they could to minimise those by getting the stuff here as early as they possibly could.
Can I just quickly, before I bring you in, Connor, CGM, the girl asking the questions was probably falling asleep listening to him. Louise is Rangers through and through. She's a lovely woman. She does great things in at Rangers. It's just unfortunate that she's in the position that she's in where she's probably given those questions to ask. It's not her fault. It's basically her job. But believe me, a bigger blue nose you will not meet. So she does it, and she really does a fantastic job in Ibrox. Connor, I don't really want to spend too much time on the stadium, but delays happen, right? And I get Will's point there about, well, you should have this and you should have that, and storage here and storage there. It's not really how it works when it comes to the building industry and ordering and getting stuff done. It's 3 different shipments, one's showing up, they're waiting on another. For me, it's just one of these situations where you need to go somewhere else, but it's been the communication that has been lacking. And Bennett said specifically that he wanted to come out and tell us, but he had nothing to tell us. Well, come out and tell us you've got nothing to tell us. Come out and tell us that, look, I don't know. We don't know what's happening yet. We're trying to sort it and we'll give you an update when we can. Just any sort of communication for the board. It's took until the 29th of July before coming out and saying anything to us. That's not right. That's why there is so much anger and frustration.
Well, it's exactly that. It's the issue is, as you say, everybody understands that when things happen that's out of your control, there's not much you can do about that, right? And there isn't much the club can do about delays and getting material shipped over and stuff like that. That's obviously on the various sort of contractors and companies and shipping companies that deal with that sort of stuff, right? That's not on the club that has happened. However, as you say, the silence has been utterly deafening for them for such a long time. And the issue is that, okay, great, with this interview coming out tonight, but ultimately, as Will said, for fans who are going to be attending, those who've got the season tickets, they are no further forward than actually knowing who or where they're going to be sitting in the ground and what their arrangements are going to be. And for me to leave that to, a week before the game's due to kick off isn't good enough, because this delay, we've known about it for a long time now. This has been going on since early June, realistically, it was getting reported. And to only be coming up now is ridiculous. Also, there's the fact that why did it take so long to identify that, okay, it was absolutely going to be Hampden? Because, of course, we were having the conversations prior about, was it going to be Murrayfield, was it going to be Hampden, was it going to be elsewhere? That sort of stuff isn't helpful either. You know, at the very least, they could come out and say, look, well, we don't know the full ins and outs of the situation, what's happening. As you say, we're trying our best here to figure it out, but we can assure the fans that as soon as we know something, we will let them know. And at the very least, say that your aim 100% is we're going to be at Hampden, rather than leaving that part to take so long as well to announce it. Just the whole thing has been a mess. And even now, it feels like Bennett's only coming out now because he's had that pressure put on him, because the fans have not been happy. And equally, nothing's been happening on the pitch to detract from it that would lighten the mood. So this has been getting the bulk of the coverage and concentration. And eventually, he's obviously decided, right, this needs to be dealt with, because it's been a lot of stuff going on and Bennett said nothing. You've had Bygrove leaving, you've had these stadium delays going on, you've had Clement making statements about the finances of the club and, you know, bringing players in and stuff like that, which I know Bennett did speak about or was asked about. And again, sat in his hands saying nothing. And now, you know, here we are 5 days before the campaign kicks off. Finally, he's got his finger out to actually speak to the fans. So it's not good enough. There's no why let it fester? That's the part that makes no sense to me. Why let it fester? Why let the fans speculate, get wound up, get angry, and not just come out with something before now? That to me is a real letdown. As I say, particularly for those fans who do pay an exorbitant amount of money for season tickets to go every week.
Well, this was a comment I think that Wolf had starred. I'll come back to that CGM one in a minute, Wolf, but I want to bring up Danny's. Fans will be getting a seat. That's all that matters. If you don't like your seat, then you will be seat subbing. I don't even know if there'll be seat subbing allowed at Hampden. Rangers haven't come out.
They have. No, they have.
Have they?
Yeah, they said on the frequently asked questions bit when they put out the statement about Hampden, the question that they put in it was, I can't or won't go to Hampden. Do I get a refund on my ticket? They said no, would encourage you to use seat sub. Now the problem is the seat sub, they only use seat sub when every other ticket's sold. Right? With the best will in the world, every other ticket isn't going to sell, so seat sub's going to be next to useless for most of the games, particularly when you consider that the first league game there's Motherwell, the second league game's Ross County. Not exactly stellar opposition for people that are choosing not to go to games. You know what I mean? A lot of times when there's tickets available, people will take the opportunity that don't usually get because they don't always get a chance to go to Ibrox. It's not Ibrox, it's Hampden. So a lot of people will just say, well, I'm just not going. You will get people that will say, it's an opportunity to go and watch Rangers that I don't normally get. I get that. Some people will do that. But they would sell an awful lot more. I just think seat sub, you can do it, but I just don't think a lot will go to seat sub because I don't expect most of the games to sell out.
No, and and just finishing up on the stadium, because I want to get to, you know, transfers and player trading models and all that, right? But just finishing up on the stadium, as a point I made to Wolf was how they can't already know where folk are going to sit. Now, I'm not having a go at anybody that works in Ibrox. I believe the chairman when he says, you know, people are in, they're doing overtime, they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. But what's the hold up, do you think? And just letting people know, even just to, like Wolf says, the basic area of where your season ticket's going to be.
That's something that really puzzles me. You know, we've known that it's going to be Hampden for a while. The season ticket deadline expired quite some time ago, so we know who the season ticket holders are. Everybody who has certain requirements is already known to the club, so I don't understand why it's so difficult. I'd expect there maybe be some conversations needing to be had with stakeholders like security and the police and so about segregation and how we split up an away section. You know, I can understand that, but for the first couple of games, well, as Will says, it's sort of Motherwell and Ross County. It's not going to be massive, problematic and troublesome games. These answers should have been out weeks ago to supporters. But like you said on Louise, there's tons of people wearing that club, working their socks off. They absolutely bleed red, white, and blue. That they're obviously working with hands tied behind their back from somewhere, because they don't want to be getting the questions. They want to be just making sure we get the answers that everybody's asking.
Right, let's move on then away for the stadium, because that's been talked about quite a lot on this pod over the last kind of month. Connor, the biggest thing we wanted to hear was about recruitment. Was about recruitment this season. Is the manager going to be back, etc., etc. Talking about money before the player trading model, 10.5 million or something. We were in the hole for. That's been patched up. 11.5 million owed on current and previous transfers. I mean, it doesn't sound as though there's going to be much in terms of movement on players, because he never really answered the question.
No, he didn't. It was just a whole load of waffle, really, about what has already gone out of the club. Great, fine. That's all well and good. We as fans want to know, though, what what the plan is to get people in, because he talks about this model. He talks about the revenues and stuff like that, and he mentions financial fair play, and I get that. But of course, one of the best ways to mitigate against that is to be successful on the pitch, because if you win things, that brings more money into the club. For example, if we had actually, went for it last year and managed to solidify winning that league title, then we would have a massive bung of Champions League money just waiting to come into the club. That in and of itself would have made a massive difference. It would have overturned that hole he was talking about, and would have obviously allowed more money to invest in the club and to bring players in the door. That didn't happen, in part because we just didn't have the players. Injuries were piling up on us. January, we didn't do enough business, and the business we did do, one of those players, Cortez, ends up getting injured and being out for the rest of the season, which is never helpful. And of course, everybody is looking at a dismal, to be quite frank, with pre-season campaign, and looking at the squad and thinking, how on earth is this squad going to be able to compete for the league title? I mean, there's a real concern here that they're just going to absolutely canter the league title this year, that we'll just be steamrolled, because I can't right now, without more bodies coming in the door, see any way that we can realistically go and win that title, because I can't see how we can go and beat them in any of the head-to-head games, regardless of what we do against the other clubs, and that's a worry. I'm not even convinced that we'll get the 3 points at Tynecastle at the weekend with the current crop, because the squad to me just doesn't look, it's not got enough depth, so it doesn't look big enough, and it doesn't look like it's got enough quality in the key areas. That might change. Maybe, we will bring somebody in, or maybe, as the season progresses, maybe a Danilo's fitness gets up and he starts, finding his feet and finding form. Who knows? But we didn't get any answer today at all for John Bennett, whether or not, what Cummont's going to get to bring players in the door between now and the end of the window. We heard nothing about that, and that's a problem. We need to know this. We need to know, for example, we already know that there's players going out the door. We know Connor Goldson's gone. We know Sam Lammers is gone. We know between the two of them, there's at least 4 million quid coming in. That isn't a bad piece of business, all things considered. What's the plan for that money? Are you going to put that money straight back into Philip Cummont's hands and say, right, go and reinvest in the playing squad with that money that's come in? He's not told us that, and it's frustrating, because, as I say, we really do need to do much more work on the squad. I mean, Cumont himself has said that that there's more needing done. So I really don't know what happens between now and the end of the window. I just hope that we do, and that Cumont does get some money to sign players, and we actually get people through the door. But that, as I say, that was far from being answered today. And it just, again, it's another thing that just adds to the pile of the frustrations that are starting to really bubble under the surface here.
I don't expect, the chairman to come out and start giving numbers and and saying, all right, we're going to bring in 2 or 3 players, we've got X amount of million. But he was quick to tell us about the numbers that they've already spent. He was quick to mention all those numbers when he was asked about transfers coming in, squad changes. He was very articulate when he was talking about getting players in for the future. Rangers need to win now, but all quite worrying for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to come out and say, look, we've got, you know, 2.5 million coming for Sam Lammers, whatever we get for Connor Goldson, and it's all going to the manager, it's all going here, it's all going there. I mean, the manager said last week that they spoke to players, they've got players wanting to come, just waiting for the deals to get done. There's obviously, for some reason, deals are taking an awful lot longer to get announced than previously, because Connor Goldson was seen at the airport on Friday with loads of cases. He's definitely gone. We know where he's gone, but nobody's come out and they've not officially announced it. I believe Aris wanted to play him yesterday. They couldn't because nobody's announced he signed yet. So I don't know what the delay in that is. And is that an ongoing delay, you know, with a lot of transfers? Is there, I don't know, is there maybe some red tape somewhere that's holding things up? I don't really know. But I think there will be players coming in, but we need them in a hurry. I mean, what was striking for me, what John Bennett said was that he said the short-term rinse and repeat, you know, come October, we're sacking a manager, rebuilding, blah, blah. That has to stop. He's been a director while all that's been happening. Okay, he wasn't the chairman. Dougie Park was the chairman, but he was the vice chairman while all that was happening. So that's on his watch, whether he likes it or not. And the 10.5 million that he was very quick to say we've spent in the last year, right? I'm fairly sure it includes the money that we've said we'll pay for Cortez. We've not paid it yet, but I would imagine doing some very quick calculations, that will probably include the money that we're committed to spending on Oscar Cortez in the summer, which, again, if all reports are believed, is negated by the fact that we're selling Sifu for the same amount of money. So it's all smoke and mirrors, you know. It's saying what he's wanting us to hear, but if you drill down into it, he's not mentioning net spend. That's gross spend. What have we brought in on players that we've shipped out? We've not shipped a lot of players out for money, but we have let players go for money. You know, Lammers is gone, Goldson's going. As I say, Sifu's going, and if he's including Cortez, yes, to include Sifu. All these, so it is a bit of smoke and mirrors financially, but we do have to bring players in. I mean, Connor's right to an extent that if you look at, we're certainly weaker than we were last season, and not that I don't pay too much attention to what our friends across the city are doing, but I think all they've done is change one 37-year-old goalkeeper for another. I don't think they've made any other changes, particularly at the moment. So I think they probably they don't need to spend money because at the moment we are falling further behind. I'm hoping they fall asleep at the wheel and think they just need to canter this, and then they'll start dropping silly points. But, you know, they're maybe too savvy for that. I don't know. But we do need to start bringing players in, and quickly. I mean, we need, it's been well voiced, we need centre halves. When we look at the game on Saturday, you know, the defence was an absolute shambles. Going forward, we looked okay. You know what I mean? We've now got more wingers than we've probably ever had. So we need to stop buying wingers. We don't need any more of them. We've got the right winger in that we needed, so we can stop signing wingers. Certainly, my midfield looks okay. We could actually do getting a new right back in, so we could put Sterling in midfield to beef up the midfield, which looks quite good on its own. But again, we could be talking about players all night. We need to be bringing players in, and we need to do it very, very quickly, because the Hearts game's on Saturday, that's must win. Then we play what's looking like Dynamo Kiev the following. And that's another thing from the financial point of view. If we go to Poland and play Dynamo Kiev a week tomorrow or a week on Wednesday and get absolutely slaughtered because there's no CCCS, what's the attendance at Hampden going to be like for the second leg? Which again puts a big hole in the coffers. Whereas if that game was at Ibrox, you were guaranteed a 50,000 sellout because of CCCS at probably 30 quid a ticket. You know what I mean? It's all knock-on effects to the fact we've got issues with the stadium. And I'm waffling a bit now, but I mean it's basically all coming back to the same thing. It's just we need players in, and in a hurry.
Did it almost feel, and Alan, maybe it's just a slight overreaction because of the way that we're all feeling, and look, I'm in the kind of same boat as Connor. I'm looking forward to the game on Saturday because I'm looking forward to seeing Rangers back again in a competitive game, and I'm looking forward to the season starting. But I'm also worried about Saturday. I'm worried about the starting lineup we're going to have. I'm worried about how well some of the younger players that are coming in are going to gel with this team. It's a difficult away game to start any campaign away at Tynecastle. did it almost feel to you, because it certainly did to me, that never mind how many times Bennett said, we have to win, it's in our DNA, we have to win, that's what our Rangers is, we have to win. He caveated it so many times. Did it almost feel as if he was trying to kind of play down expectations for this season?
I think I'm probably spot on. He talked about how we can never get away from wanting and needing to win, but there was too many buts. But, caveat this, but that. So, as a concern, obviously it's a pre-recorded, it's a club interview. He's no pressed that, okay, we've committed £11.5 million already this year, but what's the plans for the rest of the window? Obviously we need to move players out, but will we be replacing like for like and bringing players in? If we move out to centre halves, we're going to be able to bring in more players. I think he could have done well in answering that. I think possibly given his sort of reluctance to sort of come out and communicate, the biggest takeaway might be the fact that he said a new CEO should be in place soon, who will hopefully come out and give us much more meaningful updates.
On the CEO thing, Connor, again, I'm old-fashioned, right? I've played a bit of football manager and stuff, and you can get your technical director, your director of football. But Connor, in terms of transfer budgets, in terms of bringing players in, and in terms of coaching, in terms of the manager working with the players, in terms of what Rangers do on the park, how important is a CEO?
Well,
and should that be? Sorry, I'll qualify that as well. Should that be the main focus of the Rangers board right now? Is bringing in a CEO, or should it be dealing with the finances, getting players in, and getting this squad ready for the start of the season?
A few questions in there. I think that the first priority should obviously be on getting the finances in and getting the squad organised for the season, because if you do that first, then once things start to look okay on the pitch, then you can go and look for the CEO almost quietly in the background and go about getting that done. Like, a CEO is important, of course they are, because they're the one who have the more direct relationship with your manager than the chairman. The chairman really is there to write the checks and do the sort of the boring business side of things, the business work. The CEO's got to wear a few hats, and he's got to have that relationship with the manager, whoever that is that you've got in the dugout. Obviously, Bygrove had his time there with a couple of managers, didn't quite work out, and then he left back in was it end of May. I imagine somewhere in the background they will be working on that. There'll be, I'm sure, some sort of shortlist that John Bennett will have for that. But is it the most important thing right now? I don't know. I think get the club on the park organised, and then get the CEO in, and ideally get a CEO in who actually knows what they're doing, because I think we need somebody who's going to be able to go in there and actually get a bit of a rocket up the board's backsides, because they've been asleep at the wheel for a long time, and sort of malaising around from manager to manager because they've been making their own decisions. We're all hoping that Philip Clement works out and everything goes fine, and we're not sitting in October time again this season talking about yet another manager going out the door. And as I said in a prior podcast, if that is the case, then that squarely lies at the front door of the board, and they need to answer the questions for that. But that's, if you can get a strong CEO in, then certainly would help, that's for sure. But my priority is on getting everything sorted in the pitch, because, as you say, Bennett was very animated about talking about how we need to win, but we all know what we need to do. The difference is that we as fans can't actually physically do anything about it, other than what we do, and have our complaints to the sidelines and protests when things aren't going well. Bennett does have power. He has control over actually making us successful, and actually going and trying to win things, and that starts by your appointment. So obviously bringing in a good CEO is going to help. Have that be somebody that works well with your manager and have all departments of the club gelling together, because I don't feel we've had that really for quite a while.
Martin, I think the board are part of the problem when it comes to CEO, because the board wants
John Sterling not do it well.
DJ Sterling can do whatever he wants to do because he is DJ Sterling. To me, the board are far too hands-on. Right, the CEO should be the man. From my understanding of the CEO of a CEO position, he should be the man that oversees the operation of the business. Right, the board should then, he should be reporting back to the board, and the board should be looking at him and saying, right, you're doing a good job, or no, you're not doing a good job. They want to be far too hands-on. I get they're the ones supposedly pumping the money in, although in reality that's probably us as supporters. But you've got your point of CEO and let him run the show. That's the whole gig. If he's not doing it properly, you sack him. Simple as that. The whole thing is the chief executive officer. He's supposed to run the business and report to the board. The board aren't supposed to run the business and talk to him. They're for me, they're far too hands-on. And it's always been that way. That might be part of the reason we keep going through CEOs, because they're not getting left to do the job that they're actually supposed to be paid to get to do. You know, that's if you're a CEO of a company, you are running that company. You'll obviously have bosses who employed you. You then report to them. If you're not doing a good job, they sack you. If you're doing a good job, then maybe give you more money or whatever. But they've got to leave you to do it. Our board historically don't leave a CEO to do anything. I mean, somebody said, just look across the city how they do it, right? I could not tell you the name of the chairman of that lot across the city. I can tell you who the CEO is, because the CEO runs the show. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, I suppose. I never really thought about it that much.
But that's the thing as well on that, though. Like the CEO, whoever it is I totally agree with Will. Whoever it is got to be given that freedom to come in and do the job. In particular, I think they've got to be given the freedom to come in and actually look at the club top to bottom and go, right, what is working here? What isn't working here? Why are all these different things, seemingly not working together? And why is, for example, why are we having this overturn of managers, becoming Watford, basically? What is going wrong? And then give him the ability to try and fix some of that if possible. But it's also got to be somebody who cares enough about the club. Because sadly for me, I think when I look at Bisgrove, nothing personally against the man, but I never got the feeling from him that he really knew what he was actually doing for a lot of the time, because he was just as bad as Bennett. You very rarely heard anything of substance from him during his time at the club. And we can't forget, he is the one that ultimately allowed Michael Beale to do his job for him, basically, and run the club top to bottom. And that was totally, totally wrong. And that, for me, is, symptomatic of having someone who wasn't probably the right appointment. So he does have to get this right, and he does have to, as well said, give whoever that is, be it man, woman, whoever, the freedom to actually come in and do it, because the power that can have of having a good CEO that can come in and really address these issues, it makes the club better as a whole.
There's a CEO out there who was fantastic at Hibs and really good at Queen's Park, who I believe isn't at a club right now. She probably did a really good job in Ibrox, if I'm being honest.
I also believe she used to be a season ticket holder at Ibrox, but that could be totally wrong. But
well, that's why I mentioned it, because that's what I was told as well.
There is an argument that you maybe want somebody that's not a supporter of the club because they maybe care too much. But you certainly need somebody.
I don't mean a supporter of the club, but I mean somebody that actually cares about doing.
Yeah,
aye, but that's what I mean. Aye,
you need somebody. You need somebody that knows football, right? James Bisgrove was an easy appointment because he was already in situ and he'd made the club a load of money. But all he was a marketing guy. He knew nothing about football, because if he knew anything about football, he wouldn't even have taken the Sydney Cup thing to the board, which the board should have kicked into the long grass but didn't and threw him under a bus. That's on the board, not on him. But if he was a football man at all, he wouldn't even have entertained that, because he didn't know the reaction he got. Don't need to be a Rangers man to know that. You could be a fan of a team out of Mongolia and you would know that wouldn't work. So he was an easy option. He's not. You need to bring a football person in to be the CEO of a football club, somebody that knows the game. Don't necessarily have to play the game, but they need to know the game, and you need to leave them to do the job. If they're not doing the job right, you replace them.
I think that's partly the reason why he left. Bisgrove, to be brutally honest with you. I think the whole Michael Beale saga, I don't think that ever left him. And he had a lot to answer for with the whole Michael Beale thing.
Probably that and several million Saudi dollars, but
yeah, I get that. But if I know, I get that. But I think that
again, if he hadn't left, going full circle back to the stadium, if he hadn't left, he had to fall on his sword because of the stadium fiasco anyway, because that would have been dropped on his door. So
I was actually surprised that he wasn't mentioned a bit more or at all, really, in the interview today, because that would have been an easy number to lay some blame at. But however, right, okay. Unless there's anything else you want to bring up for that interview, we'll move on.
Well, on the subject of CEOs, there is somebody, not so much CEO. There was another position that Louise didn't ask him about because obviously it wasn't on our list of questions. We still don't have a director of football. It would have been nice if he'd spoke about a director of football. And I know a former Rangers player who's also a former Dutch international who's looking for a job as a director of football. I'm not saying give him the job, but there's definitely people. No. But he likes a 35-yard screamer.
I thought he was a joiner.
He's currently looking for a job. To give you a bit of insight, because I actually spoke to him in the game against Ajax. Believe it or not, he applied for the DOF job at Dundee United because he heard they were looking for one.
Really?
That's what he said.
Big cornerman. Surprised at that.
Right. He's looking for a job back in football. He's looking for a director of football or some similar job. So there's guys out there looking for work. I'm not saying we should give him the job, by the way, but there is folk out there looking for.
Not now he's applied for a job at Dundee United. Absolutely not. That's him. That's him. Absolutely sitting down.
Well, he said he wanted to give your brother £1 million a week contract. So.
Well, I mean that's fair enough then. If he wants to do that, he's back. He's back.
You're not on the candidate list for that job as well, Martin.
Who?
Were you not on the candidate list for that job as well?
For the Dundee United one, but I told him to ram it. I told him I'm not interested. I'm not doing it. I'd be a dreadful director of football. I'd sell Lennon Miller to Rangers for a £5 if I get that job. So I would. Right. Anything else for Bennett's interview that you want to bring up, or I've missed, or because I'm pretty sure Wolves get about 7 pages worth of notes.
Something that he said, I don't know if anybody else picked up on it, and it might just be me reading too much into it. Quite early on in the interview, he said that Philippe's all in, the manager's all in, because he's all in on, like a number of us. That rung alarm bells with me. That means that everybody's not on the same page to me. It was like if a number of us are all in, we're not all in. So does that mean that there's folk in the boardroom that aren't on the same page?
I think that's been an issue with this Rangers board for a while. I think that stems all the way back to Dave King. The fact that people on the Rangers board didn't see eye to eye.
But you don't need to see eye to eye to agree with the direction you need to put the thing in. You know what I mean?
Which is why you have a CEO and a director of football.
Correct. Yep. The board can squabble all they like, but as long as the two guys down there get on, that's fine. But when the board are trying to run it and they don't see eye to eye, you know what I mean? It's a never-ending circle.
But then because we don't know the ins and outs and the inner workings, then you've got to ask, well, who's at odds? Is it Bennett and Park? Are they at odds? Is it somebody else in the background that's at odds? Is that a big investor that's at odds? Then you're going down that making stuff up just to try and fit a narrative.
But that's a vacuum that the chairman knows is there and did absolutely nothing about filling. Although he said he wanted to. Why did he not? But my final word on this interview, right, is that I hope to God that while he's chairman of the Rangers, he's never put in front of a live TV camera. Because if that's a pre-recorded interview with club media with already set questions, and he performs like that, and he's obviously not comfortable in front of the camera, and that's fine. We're not all comfortable in front of the cameras.
None of us are.
No, absolutely not. But if he's put in front of even a panel of supporters in a live situation, I really feel the worst for them. I really do.
Yeah.
Again, that's what a good CEO would do for you.
No.
They would take care of that side of things. Because that's the thing, realistically, what you said earlier about that walk across the road. You probably really shouldn't know the name of the chairman in an ideal world, because not knowing their name usually means things are going pretty well, because the CEO's got a good handle on it. So that's exactly what you'd do, is you'd have your CEO going out in front of the cameras and do it, because I agree. Honestly, I don't think listening to him on live television would do us any favours at all.
I think that the difference being, and I don't, you always measure yourself against, or as a yardstick to see where you are against your rival or against the other top team in the league, whoever you're going for. Never see Dermot Desmond in front of a camera. Not once. And that guy basically runs Celtic. And he obviously does it really, really well and does a very good job at it. But you never ever see him. He never has to come out and explain anything. And it was always, what's his name, Wolf? Their CEO guy.
Liswell.
Like him. It was always Lawwell that was thrown out in front of a camera and told what to say. Never ever seen Dermot Desmond doing it. So, our chairman.
They've got another level between them because Dermot Desmond's the owner, but he's not. I don't even think he's a director because I think it's boy Ian Bankier or whatever they call him. I think that's the chairman. I'm not even sure.
You never heard of him either. That's what I'm saying. But that just shows you how differently the two clubs are being run.
They're getting run properly, and I hate to say that, but they're getting run properly.
Yeah, and we're not.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. I hate transfer rumours, right? I despise transfer rumours. Occasionally, but it's the only thing, especially during the summer, that can keep a show going. Otherwise, you're pretty much coming on and going, nothing to report, folks. We'll see you at the start of the season. There's been a few kicking about. There's always one or two that never seem to go away. I'm surprised we're not still getting linked with Vladimir Weiss, if I'm being honest with you. I'm surprised that's no still kicking about. The one that is kicking about, and as we are coming up to play Hearts, so I think you know where I'm going with this. And Mark Ferguson's asking on Facebook, Martin, can you please clarify all this Shankland drama and politics for me? Is he, probably shouldn't have spelled it like that, but is he coming or no? Alan, I've got no idea, mate. I do not know. There's talk that Hearts want 5 million with a year left in his contract, and then there's talk that Hearts want 3 million, and then there's talk that Hearts will sell him to us after the first game of the season. I've no idea, mate. I don't even know if Clement's interested in him. I don't know.
I'm certainly not convinced if the manager's interested in him, and I can't for the life of me see Hearts would sell him ahead of the game. You know, I think if the deal's going to be done, it'll possibly be right at the end of the window when Hearts see where they sort of land in sort of Europe. You know, if they hold on to him a wee bit longer, then he's probably more value to Hearts to actually maybe get him in to the next stage in Europe. I think Shankland would do a great job for us. I think he'd lead the line pretty well, but I don't see us signing him unless somebody comes in and buys Cyril Dessers.
It's Connor. It's just dropped my pen. Connor, it's a rumour that I'm fed up hearing about. That it's one of those ones. It's just boring me now. We're either interested or we're not interested. He's either coming or he's not coming. He's either going to hold that scarf above his head or he's going to have a Hearts top on for the rest of the season. The truth is, I've no idea.
Well, that's it's the same for all of us. None of us really know for certain. I mean, listen, if you ask Lawrence Shankland himself, he would come in a heartbeat. The guy's a blue nose through and through. He would walk for Gorgie to govern without question. If you asked him, I don't know in terms of the clubs is how interested is come on and bringing him in. If he is really interested and determined to do it, then as you say, the prices seem to be up in there. It wouldn't surprise me if it happened after the weekend that he scored a winner against us just to rub the salt in the wounds. Because obviously Hearts, they'll certainly be thinking they don't want, if he is to come to us, they won't want him playing against them at the weekend. So I think even if we managed somehow, say it happened, to agree some sort of deal with him between them in the weekend, then I imagine the agreement would be made late enough in the week that would prevent him from playing for us if that was to happen. Well, I suspect it would be after it. I mean, look, personally, I would like us to bring Shankland in. The guy, over the last 2 seasons, for me, has been pretty much the star striker in the SPFL. I know, obviously, Kyogo and stuff like that at them, but excluding the big two here, he's been the best striker in the country, basically. And for me, a guy with the kind of goals he's got in him, that you want that guy at your club. I would even, I don't know if they'd go for it, but we're talking about, you know, selling Dessers. Can we not offer Dessers as part of the deal? I'd quite happy to see Dessers go and Shankland come in the door. I think he's a far better striker than
They wouldn't be able to afford the wages. Hearts.
Possibly not, no. But it's one of those things that until we get a definitive yes or no, it will keep rumbling on. I mean, even if we don't sign him this window, there'll still be the chat, well, can we maybe do it in January? Which means the clubs are going to have to eventually just come out and say either, yes, this is going to happen, or no, this is not going to happen. One way or the other, we need an answer, because the one thing we can't do, as much as I'd love us to bring Shankland in, is you can't get tunnel visioned on that player, because we do need a striker. And if it's not going to be Lawrence Shankland, fine. We then need to turn our attentions elsewhere and see who else is out there in the market, because bringing strikers in, good strikers are like gold dust. You just don't get them very often at a reasonable price. But if I was still a betting man, I would say that we'll probably hear the definitive answer on that by probably this time in a week after we've played them. I suspect he'll play for them at the weekend, and then we'll see what happens with it. But it is slightly farcical that it keeps just on and on and on and on and on. This isn't even just exclusive to this window. It's been going on since January. Realistically, everybody's been talking about getting him in, if not before that. So we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Well, this is the comment for me. Forever Blue 72. I don't think we'll be going for him with Bennett talking about player trading model. We won't be spending 45 million on a 29, 30-year-old. No, he's not saying that he wouldn't. He just doesn't think we're going to be spending that amount of money. That was a big thing I took for what Bennett said in his interview today. He was talking about, you don't just buy for the following season. You're buying for the season after that and the season after that in the player trading model. Shankland doesn't fit that.
No, not every, as you've been pointing out to me on several occasions on here, not every player you sign, you're signing to get money back on him. You're signing a player for the here and now. You can't sign them all for the future. And Shankland at 29, he probably has got another contract in him after the next contract he signs, wherever it's going to be, because he's out of contract next year. So I think he'll just about be 30 when that happens. So if we signed him this summer, 3-year deal, he'd be 32 when that runs out. He'd still have another contract in him after that. Not a big one, right enough. But I wouldn't be paying £4 or £5 million for Lawrence Shankland. Not a chance. No, absolutely. With a year left in his deal, not a chance. I'd say £1.5 million tops. I don't particularly want us to sign him, but if we're going to sign him, and he would score goals for us, I'm not saying he wouldn't, £1.5 million, or just wait till January, sign him on a pre-contract if we're that desperate to get him, and then we give Hearts £500,000, take it or leave it. Because I think was it Alan? Was it one of the boys said, I can't remember, about the European thing. If Hearts win their Europa League qualifier, the Europa League group stage knockout game thing, whatever it is, at the end of the month, and get into the Europa League, I think they'll sell them quite happily, because they'll have made the £5 or £6 million that they kept out to make. If they get beaten, they go into the Conference League, they'll make about £3 million. So they might, they might then keep them to try and get out of that as well, because they should conceivably get out of that. So if Shankland's going anywhere from that, I don't see it being till the end of the window. And it certainly won't be this week if he's coming to us. Not a chance.
I think we all forget as well that we've signed a boy, is it Igami? I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
Igaman.
He's not even fit to take part in full training. He's doing solo training.
Which is what I was just about to bring up. We've signed that boy for £1.5 million, Moroccan striker.
For the future.
For the future, and he's absolutely nowhere near the first team.
But what's more concerning to me is there's not been a whisper about Zach Lovelace this whole summer. No, I don't even know where Zach is. Is he fit? He's not been playing with the B team, to my knowledge. He's certainly not been away with the first team. Is he fit? Is he still ours? You know what I mean? Because he'd be, if we could get him fit and fire him, we don't need to bring in anybody else. Because we'd have
he's very injury prone.
Videos.
Say that again.
I thought I'd seen Lovelace in some training videos. I could be wrong on that,
but they've not come out. Nobody's mentioned his name. Nobody's even said a word about it. You know what I mean? It's very.
I suppose. Well, if he didn't take part in any of the pre-season games where they basically bring the full B team.
No. So is he fit? You know what I mean? And I mean, he was always one that said if he wasn't going to make it, would make money on him. So one way or another, we need to know what's happening with Zach Lovelace, because he's either going to help us and firing goals for Rangers, or if he's as good as he appears to be, you sell him for a lot of money. But
well, apparently he's definitely in the training camp, so I think Alan's right with that. But then you've got to ask yourself, well, if he's part of the training camp, then why is he not playing?
Yeah,
why is he not being selected for any of these games? Although he is very injury prone, I don't know if physically. I don't know if Zach's just one of those players that, unfortunately, every time he's had his chance at Rangers or a chance to show what he can do, he's broke down. He's broke down with injury.
To be fair, the tackle against Shabana was ridiculous. The one that got him injured.
Of course it was.
The issue for me is, though, you're looking at these players. I mean, I agree totally on the Lovelace point. I think is absolutely right. But you look at the players like Igamani and stuff for that, and I get saying, bring players for the future and stuff like that. That's great, but you also need players for the here and now as well that you can go and compete with. I mean, look at it. We're talking about Lawrence Shanklin's age. What age was Kenny Miller when Walter Smith brought him back to Rangers back in 2008? He wasn't someone that we were going to then turn over mass amounts of profit on. Obviously, he ultimately went to Bursaspor, but Walter Smith brought him in to serve a purpose, because in that moment, in the here and now of it, we needed a proper striker who could come in and get us the goals that could help fire us towards winning a league title. And sure enough, him and Boyd obviously had that partnership. That wasn't done because we looked at Miller and went, he's the guy for the next decade. It was done because we needed it there and there, and we need that now.
Ironically, he was there for pretty much the next decade.
Well, yeah, minus that stopgap.
Minus the events we shall not talk about.
When he came in at that point in the championship, again, that was done because
different era. That it was totally different. Totally different. Where we are now.
The principle still applies, though. You still at times need to bring in players that can come in and do a job for you straight away, that are capable of doing it. And for me, right now, we lack goals and at the top end of the park in terms of our strikers. Dessers, okay, he did get 22 goals, whatever it was last season, fair enough. But with the amount of chances he took to get those goals, he probably should have scored 50. The amount of chance, and no striker scores every chance, I get that, but he is not the guy who's going to fire us to a league title. He's simply not. Danilo,
he's looked sharp in pre-season, to be fair to him.
Yeah, well, to an extent. But how many goals has he scored in pre-season? Most of the goals we scored in pre-seasons came from the midfield.
Sam Lammers was brilliant last pre-season.
Exactly.
He was, but Sam Lammers didn't go on and score like 25 goals. Dessers did.
Well, yeah. But again, Sam Lammers was brought in as a striker.
Just playing devil's advocate, that's all I'm doing.
But Sam Lammers was brought in as somebody who had played as a striker and then not actually played by us as a striker. He was played as a winger in the main. But as I say, the point is, Danilo will see. Sorry, Al?
Dessers might score 40 if he's taking Otav's penalties.
Maybe, you never know. But no, as I say, we don't know what's going to happen with Danilo either. Obviously, he's coming back for a long injury layoff. I get that, and he does need a bit of time. But how long do you give it? At the end of the day, once the season starts, the games start coming thick and fast. You've got these games coming up against Hearts, Motherwell. You've got a League Cup last 16 fixture against St Johnstone. Okay, that's it. Home, Hampden.
Corner. We have a striker who's just back from a year out, and we have another striker who we bought who's nowhere near ready to play yet. So we only have one option.
You need to bring somebody who is ready to play, who can come in the door straight away and come into the team. Sometimes you need that, even if that is a 29-year-old. It's about doing a job. You can't just keep signing kids. You need to bring in a bit of experience in there as well, someone who knows what they're doing. As I said, for me, you could argue that's a Lawrence Shankland. You could liken that to the Kenny Miller 2008 kind of signing. All I'm saying is the principles are still there, that where there's a need that you need to fill in that moment that's going to take you for at least the next year or two, then you do that. And you've still got those young guys who are there for the future who can come in and be the successors. That's the whole point. You've got to have somebody there now.
All I'm saying is I don't think he's going to bring in another striker when you've got one coming back for injury and one who's getting ready to come in, and then you're going to pay a fourth wage on a striker when we only play one up front. I just don't see that. Can I just quickly say happy birthday, to channel legend, I suppose, Ian Barron, who's always in the comments. I hope you're having a great 50th. and I'll be joining you at that age very, very soon. Ian, so happy birthday. Sorry, Will.
It doesn't hurt, Ian, believe me, it doesn't hurt. Yeah, what worries me a little bit about the injuries thing, right? And I know players get injured, but see this, I don't know whether it's a new style of management or whatever, but they seem to be managing minutes seems to be the buzz phrase, you know, and Danilo's just coming back from a year out and he doesn't look anywhere near fit and they're managing his minutes and they're giving him 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. Right? As of now, we can't be doing that. We can't be saying, well, okay, he's going to get the last 10 minutes because on Saturday, if we're struggling against Hearts, we can't bring on a player who might break down. We just don't know. If he's fit enough to play 15 minutes, start him and see how long he lasts. We need to be doing stuff like that, or putting teams to bed. You know, then bringing players on. All this managing minutes. It's maybe just me being an old man shouting at a cloud again. But I just can't see the logic behind it. If you don't know how many minutes the player's got, start him and see how long he lasts. You know what I mean? But you should have been doing that in pre-season, really. But I mean, the manager coming out today in that interview he did with Sky Sports, which we've not touched on, which I'm sure you know, saying that the pre-season for some of the players is going on till sort of September, October. It'll still, which tells me that he's going to be chopping and changing the team and all. We can't afford to be doing that. We really need to try and get a steady.
How are we in that state, Wolf, where we've got players who won't be ready until September, October?
Well, I mean, some of them are coming back off big injuries. I mean, Danilo's injury was a bad one, but he should be. For me, he should be ready. The St Johnstone game in the League Cup 3 weeks into the season is going to tell us where Danilo is because he should be starting that. If he's any fitness about with any chance of him contributing the first half of the season, he has to start that game. He should be starting games before then. But you know, it's the fact that they seem to be too cautious with players coming back off injuries. If they're fit enough to be on the bench, for me, they should be fit enough to start the game. And if they're better than what's playing in front of them, get them off the bench, get them on the park, get the game won, then give them a rest. You know, if you're saying you're managing the minutes of that player coming back from an injury, well, start him if he's better than what's on the park. Let him help you put the game away, then take him off and put somebody else on. Because it's the same thing with bleeding youngsters in the team. We've been in the position for the last number of years. We can't bleed youngsters because we don't put teams away. Which again leads you back to, do we need a striker that's going to score the goals to help us put teams away? No, but it's the managing minutes bit just really, really worries me. Really worries me.
But here's the question, right? See, outside of Jack Butland and goals, who's the actual outstanding player in our team that you look at and go,
Diamande.
He's the game changer.
Diamande.
Yeah.
Who's still a young lad. I agree, by the way, but he's still a young lad.
Take Diamande out of the equation, right? Who's been the next most impressive player in pre-season?
In pre-season?
We don't go with what we've seen. So in the 4 games that we've seen,
I don't know, Scott Wright potentially.
Scott Wright. Yeah, Scott Wright.
Connor Barron,
which is quite worrying.
Barron's been okay, yeah.
But again, the Connor Barron thing's bizarre. Getting back to the managing minutes, right? But Barron and Diamande looked really good together against Man United. Then we went down to Birmingham, and Diamande played the first half, and Barron played the second half. They didn't play together. Surely they looked quite good, and then they looked quite good again in Berlin on Saturday. So you need to get them building up a relationship. So why did they not both play together for at least some game time in Birmingham? I can't get my head around the way they do that. If it's a modern way of football, that's fine. But I can't get my head around it. Surely 2 young guys like that, they shouldn't need their minutes managed.
Right, I need to get this super chat in from Dono 1872 over on YouTube. I can see you can't get a word in, Alan, so have a pint on me, mate. Thank you very much, Dono. Alan, do you want to come in on any of that?
No, I heard enough of Alan's voice.
I was going to jump in there. I did see that.
I heard enough of his voice over the weekend, Martin. Put him on mute.
Let him speak, Wolf. Let him speak. Connor, shush. Alan, carry on.
I did spot that super chat, so thanks to Donald for that. You know, talking about what Connor's saying on the player trading model and needing players for here and now. The player trading model doesn't work if you don't balance it out by signing players for the here and now, because we'll not win anything, and we need to be winning stuff to make the player trading model completely profitable. All we're doing right now this summer is selling players that can't win and can't get over a line. We need to make sure that we're going out there and bringing players in from now. Igmani is probably not going to be ready to contribute enough this season. Danilo will be stop-start. I expect him to have a season a bit like Tom Lawrence last season, picking up niggling injuries as he gets back to full fitness. I think we still need to bring in a striker that'll do a job now. Be it like, you mentioned Kenny Miller, be it like Billy Dodds who came in. He wasn't exactly a youngster. We don't need everybody to have a resale value, but we bring in the right players for the here and now. It boosts the resale value of the younger guys like Cortez, like Diamandi, like Connor Barn.
The one thing I want to say, Wolf, because we're running quite low on time, and I've just had a phone call to see if I can put my daughter's dinner on. So before we go, we were linked to a player of the day, and Wolf or Connor, one of you can take this if you want, and it's a signing that I would love to see us make. Again, a young player, but a player who I think would definitely complement that midfield of Diamandi and Barron, and that was Lennon Miller from Motherwell. Wolf. That is a player who, if it's going to cost us 3 or 4 million, you spend the 3 or 4 million on that boy, because that boy is special.
Yes, please. Yep, without question. Yep. For me, yeah, without question. No, without question. I was waiting for Connor to jump in there, but Alan, go back to what you were saying about.
I think Lennon Miller, my only concern would be, just as a quick caveat, if we do bring him in, we have got to do much better with him than we did with Jake Hasty, because he had all the promise in the sun and done brilliantly at Motherwell, and we signed him partly because they signed David Turnbull, who was kind of the other half of that, and then it all went tits up very quickly. We didn't utilise him properly, and he wasn't ready for it. So I would just caveat it by saying absolutely be a great signing, but
I think he comes into the first team, Connor. I think he comes straight into the first team.
As long as the manager handles him properly, which I think Cumberland would. I think obviously at that time he had a manager, was it Gerrard, I think it was, signed him, who I don't think, greatest respect to him, managed that situation properly. But I do think Cumberland would probably do that for Lennon Miller. So yeah, I'd have him in a heartbeat.
Mark, before you go put your daughter's tea on, right? Alan, going back to what you said about bringing in a striker, we mentioned it at the weekend. There's a player currently getting his fitness up at Auchenhowie, who I couldn't believe is only 32. Martin, do we take back John Fleck?
Yeah, for free, yeah.
Okay. Connor?
For free, absolutely.
I mean, he's a defensive midfielder, but
yeah, but bringing players in, do we take him back?
It depends on how much of a wage he wants, because he's there for experience. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to stunt the growth that's already been stunted of Bailey Rice. I really want Bailey Rice in and around this first team. And as CGM is saying there, look, is Miller better than Rice? There's a Miller-Rice joke in there somewhere. He wasn't 2 years ago. That's because Lennon Miller was allowed to grow through the Motherwell Academy, and then he got into the first team. And first team football is always going to pip, no matter how good your training centre is. That's why Lennon Miller.
Bailey Rice had gone through the Motherwell Academy. He'd be in Lennon Miller's position right now.
Oh, he'd be down south. He'd be down south. He'd be in the Premier League.
100%.
He'd be in the Premier League. But if we can get Bailey Rice in and around this first team this year, with Lennon Miller in there, with Diamandi in there, and with Connor Barron in there, like I said the other night, that's a midfield for the next 5-10 years. And that's a midfield also that's going to have extremely amazing resale value. One other player I want to touch on very, very quickly, because my daughter's on her way home and she needs her cheesy pasta, right? It was something that popped up today in one of the comments on YouTube for a previous video. And we've spoke so much about the right-back situation, about James Tavernier and Dujon Sterling. They talk about, is Tavernier going, is he not going, is Sterling going to start there? I would love to see, Alan, Adam Devine come back into this Rangers team this season and get a rerun at right back.
I would like that, because it would mean he was going to be a success. A wee bit of surprise we've not seen him more in pre-season, especially with Tav struggling for fitness. And I don't know if that means he's just out the picture, but playing Leon King here and ahead of Adam Devine, unless Adam Devine's carrying a knock.
Leon King,
he's no, but he's playing in front of Adam Devine.
Yeah, but Adam Devine. Adam Devine played in Larne on Saturday for the B team.
Mm-hmm. Which again, Wolf, confuses me, because I do think that boy is good enough to be in and around the first team. I really do. He didn't have the greatest time at Motherwell, but he was there. He was still much better than what they had in O'Donnell.
No, I agree, but I mean, what I noticed about the team, what I noticed about the team in Berlin on Saturday, the manager treated it like a proper game. He didn't have 400 subs. He only listed 8 or 9 subs, and he only used 5 like he would in a normal game. So I think had that been similar to what we did against Ajax, and it was like he basically changed the whole team, I think Adam Devine probably wouldn't have been in Larne. He would have been with the first team in Copenhagen. But I think because he kind of split the teams, I think that's probably why Adam Devine and guys like that went with the B team to Larne. So hopefully they're keeping an eye on him. I'd love to see Adam Devine get a shot at right back. I really would. I think he's a fabulous player.
I mean, Connor, final word to you then before we go on this. I genuinely do think he could seriously do a job at Rangers, and if Dujon Sterling's going to be that number one at right back, if Tavernier leaves, then I think Adam Devine's a more than capable deputy.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see him get the opportunity, as you say, did quite well at Motherwell. And I think, why not give him the chance? At the end of the day, you talk about player trading models and all that sort of thing. One of the best ways you can do that is promoting from within and giving opportunity and building these guys up. I mean, Celtic didn't just get 25 million quid for Kieran Tierney overnight. They had to build him for the youth right the way up and give him that chance, and there's no reason we couldn't do it.
Celtic have been mentioned far too much tonight on this podcast.
No, I'm just using that as an example. That's what you do with these young guys. You give them that chance and let them flourish, and I think Devine could do that. Certainly, divine intervention is probably required.
Jesus. Oh.
But no, I would certainly agree. I would give him the opportunity. I think he's more than earned it. Because if you're not going to do it, then what's the point in having anything to do with him?
Oh, Connor, that was dreadful, mate. That was terrible. That's it. The daughter's not getting cheesy pasta now because of you. That's it. But look, folks, we could be here for another hour. There's plenty more to discuss. We never even got a chance to discuss the Hearts game. I might look at doing a wee preview on Friday if we've got time. If we've got enough people, we'll do a wee preview for the Hearts game on Friday after the press conference and stuff. Hopefully we can bring back those press conference reactions. But it's all about availability.
All I'll say about Hearts to put people's mind at rest, I watched them against Spurs. Their defence is worse than ours.
Well, I mean, that's not really saying much right now at this moment in time, Wolf, is it? But listen, Wolf, Alan, Connor, thank you very, very much. Apologies, Alan, that you only got to speak for 4 minutes out of the hour that we were on, but I do hope you come back. Thank you to every single person who tuned in and watched. Honestly, your support's phenomenal. The numbers just keep rising. It's crazy the amount of people that tune in and watch. I made of money, phone a delivery. We also have, on that note, I'm Rich. You can become a member if you want to help support the Rabble and help us support us on our way to try and make this as professional as possible. I want to get the production levels up. I want to get the amount of shows up. I want to get the viewer interaction up. And I need your support to be able to do all of that. So click the join button below or the link in the description and have a look at our memberships and see whatever one suits you. Feeling that, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow us on all the social medias. And we'll speak to you all. In fact, bear with me. There we go. We'll speak to you all very, very soon.
Sports Social Podcast Network.